So the first match I have here testing my deck is actually against someone who, this is their first game. They said that they just threw a deck together and wanted to start learning. So shout out to Nuke for letting me record this. Really appreciate it. So here I ended up winning the die roll and choosing to go second. Be honest, I even if it's their first time, I typically don't try to go easy. That's just how I am, and I think you learn better that way. And Nuke even said that he learned a lot from there, which was what I was hoping for. So uh, no holding back here, so definitely this is still a good game to show off. So my opponent sets one, enchants Pandacene, so honestly a good start. Even though it's first game, I could definitely tell that with prior knowledge from other games that Nuke had at least an idea what he was doing. So I set my own card shield there and go straight into my P-Gust just to answer his back row. Knew I couldn't attack over the Pandacene unless I sent it up into Capricorn, but with that Poison Tip arrow, I knew P-Gust, especially seeing as a Poison Tip arrow, I knew P-Gust was definitely the better approach here. As even if my opponent does attack over something, I could still probably respond. So he ends up Earthquaking the P-Gust, so I take care of actually two really great runes on my opponent's side that could answer the Capricorn, and he ended up goes into an Equal Links. And I'm also not too concerned here, as I have my own shield set, so I can easily get back on board, and I end up using the shield here just to bounce the Equal Links. I'm not too worried about it, having read its effect. So I can easily shield, and now on this turn deal with the Pandacene. So I end up drawing into my Sorlet. And here one thing of note is I don't actually have a Foamy set up in my Underworld. So I opt to go for the Sorlet here just to easily attack over it and save the Capricorn to get more value once I can get a Foamy out in a later turn. And I mean, even from this position, even if I don't necessarily have a Foamy set up, just having kind of Capricorn in the back when I have a one spirit that answers the board a bit better also makes sense. So I goes into a Riceros here, really good play, just to slow me down a bit, even though I can easily answer it. And this is the perfect time to play out my Foamy in defense. So attack over the Riceros, and I actually think Foamy would have been able to attack here, so I probably should have thrown an attack. But he ends up boom batting here to answer my Sorlet. I actually think the better play there would have been a Foamy, but of course, since he wasn't familiar with the cards, it makes sense why he would do that. Though ultimately, don't think it really would have ended up mattering. But here I choose to go for a Peliquarius. I kind of have the board here. I could have set up a Capricorn with nothing to attack over. Didn't see much point in it when I could just set up a Peliquarius and grab a good card for later. So I set up a Moustachian, meaning I have a really strong attacker for cheap next turn as well. Uh, so he uses two Thunder, or he expends the two Thunder Spirits for the attack here. So getting on to his turn, I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty good position. I've got the board control. I have one set, so it's going to be a bit difficult, especially with him only having four cards in hand, to start answering it. So he sets up his Demeter with two spirits, plays out another Equal Links to kind of start nexusing stuff here. I forget exactly what the nexus effect of Equal Links is, but he definitely starts setting up and I end up shielding here on the attack. That way I can just kind of continue to have that board control as I'm looking to shift over to more of a... Oh, it pops runes. That's what it does. My bad. So yeah, he's able to attack over the Peliquarius. Good play as I was able to float into Foamy, which then sets up a Capricorn play. But here, with Capricorn in play, oh yeah, I also had to expend once as an attack, but I end up being able to set up really good play with a Tad Puff. I think I was thinking of what I talked in my deck preview, being able to set up a Tad Puff and go straight into Capricorn, but actually opt to just be able to keep a board advantage and keep the Tad Puff off. I So this is one place where I'm starting to notice that maybe Tad Puff isn't as great as I wasn't able to. I didn't have a Foamy to set up yet, so I ended up opting to go over it to ascend over it to then start setting up my foamies. But at the same time, just kind of having Tadpuff here as an extra beatdown tool isn't the worst thing. It's not the strongest, but it does force my opponent to expend yet another spirit in this scenario. So definitely not terrible just for a little extra damage output. Though definitely making me wonder if I really need Tadpuff at 3 here. So moving into my opponent's turn, it's definitely looking very tricky for him. He still has his Demeter up, so he can definitely start attacking over things. But I don't know if he would necessarily have any one Spirit Elestrals in his deck that can really, even with a Demeter, attack over Capricorn. So he chooses to set up a Spark Hit here. Not being able to use its Nexus effect. Don't think it would be too relevant here as the hand's not so much of an issue. But definitely just trying to set up some defenses to slow down the game here. Uh, but here, I just choose to set up my Moustachian as just another strong attacker, fill up the board, and I'm able to attack over with Foamy since the Spark It only has one defense, and now I'm able to just start beating my opponent down for 4 spirits. So I'm trying to remember what he does next. Oh yeah, he just concedes he didn't have anything that could answer. So we move on to game two. Moving on to game two here, my opponent chooses to go first and starts me off with the Riceros. Really good start on his part, as it'll definitely slow down my ability to attack over it. And then ends up setting one and setting two. Yep, so drawing, I have my Nectar of the Gods in the opening hand, which is a great way to just draw into more cards, which I definitely need as I didn't start any Elestrals. But the higher Elestral count, I was feeling pretty confident I'd be able to draw into one. So I end up setting two. One is a bluff in case my opponent's rune removal, and I'm able to just set up a Mostation defense. Since I can't attack, I figured a great defense is exactly what I need. If he has Poison Tip Arrow, so be it. But it's going to be a bit tricky for my opponent to attack over this unless he chooses to ascend, in which case it's an easier target to regain board control. So here he does want to check his face down, and since he's brand new to both the game and also Tabletop Simulator, he didn't know that you could just hold Alt and Shift to view face down cards, so just letting him know that there. So as I said, he would have to ascend to be able to get over this, so he ascends into Lycavolt, even though Lycavolt's 6 attack matches my 6 defense. So he ends up only really just being able to pass here, not being able to answer it. So definitely will prevent me from using my shield to deal with it here, but that was fine. I draw into another shield, so here I can easily get over it. I've got both Scythe and Demeter in hand, and an Teratlus in my Underworld to be able to utilize. Though I think here Demeter is definitely the easier play, which is probably what I go for. With the counter rooms up, it's just less risky, if I equipped Scythe, I would lose 1 card and 2 spirits, but in this situation, I'll just lose the 1 spirit on Demeter if that's the case. So I switch Moustachian's attack with the spirit, use Demeter to power it up, and I set 1. I really should have instead enchanted the set Demeter, as it would have left a space open for the Ambrosia. And here, I think I was just double checking because I wasn't sure if I actually. I was trying to remember the set rules on that one, so I think that's why I cut over there. But I as I said, should have just enchanted the set one to leave a space open to be able to use like that Ambrosia. Or, I don't think the Scythe would have been too relevant here. So one of the set cards is an Earthquake here, just easily able to get rid of my Moustachian. Again, that's why I really liked Demeter here, as she doesn't go away. I can easily empower a new Elestral for 3 attack next turn if I need to attack over something. So ends up setting 2 more and passes. I think here I didn't catch it this time, but I know one time I remind him that he is able to do that, as he is still learning the rules. It's certainly a mistake I've made as well. So here I could easily Tad Puff and ascend straight into Caprigol, but I really don't think that's that great of a play here with 3 back row set and no foamies in my Underworld, and my opponent doesn't have anything on their board, so I just choose to expend a spirit to draw 1. Because what's Capricorn doing? Just running into a counter rune and losing me the Tad Puff and some spirits in the process. So it didn't seem worth it. So my opponent ends up enchanting into the Boom Bat. And actually here, that's one thing with this deck. If there isn't really much to answer, I'm not really doing too much, because at this point I'm just trying to control the board. I don't have too many neutral plays in here or proactive plays, not so much neutral, but proactive plays other than like Peliquarius. So that's one thing I'll actually discuss in my deck wrap up. Not that it's so much of a bad thing, but it just makes me take a turn where I just expend 1 to draw. So my opponent plays a Boombat and chooses to Ambrosia here, so he's left no cards in hand. I just choose to go into a Sorlet, as I still see no reason to send up into Capricorn. I got no foamies in drop, and Sorlet's just a less risky play into the counter runes. But I'm starting to wonder if there are any counter runes, as the attack just is able to go through here. So Sorlet definitely a very commanding presence on the board with that 5 attack. So my opponent chooses to use Amp Up's ability to be able to discard it, expend 1 spirit to add 2 Amp Ups to hand. Pretty good just to get some extra resources to hand on top of thinning the deck, so you're more likely to draw into cards that are more relevant than just drawing those Amp Ups. I think here I went back to the set Celestial ruling, because I was kind of like, I really should have played it, but wanted to make sure I wasn't misremembering a ruling. So second Earthquake comes out here to destroy the Sorlet. Not too bad that I haven't used my Capricorn yet, as it's looking like Capricorn will be able to stick pretty well if I choose to use it. Enchants the Amp Up and depletes my Spirit deck by 1. So here, I believe I chose just to go into the Sorlet again by misenchant it, because even if I enchant it with Wind Spirit, I wouldn't be able to use this effect because I have no others until I can get that Ambrosia, and with the full back row, I wouldn't be able to use it anyway. So I just chose to just regular enchant the Sorlet, and I doubt I'll need the Sorlet's effect here with the Caprigal setup, and I even have another Demeter use as well if need be. So I've got other answers. I don't feel like I need Sorlet. So my opponent chooses to enchant Zeus with 3. Nexus is onto Spark Hit, forcing me to discard. I choose to discard the Poison Tip Arrow as I still have 2 counter runes up, and I don't think I'll really need more than just that with my opponent running out of resources. Attacks with Spark Hit, and I shield here, meaning that he ended up wasting 3 spirits on that play just for it to end up being null and void. So here I draw into a Nectar of the Gods. Here I do not think it's good. I still have plays I can make in hand, and I don't necessarily... Actually, do I choose? Oh, I do choose to do it. I guess I assumed that I was in such a commanding position, just wanted to see more Elestrals here. But I really don't think that was necessary here. I could have just easily expended 1 spirit to get a draw. I'm ahead on board. I still need to check for a counter rune that I don't think is there, and I choose to expend to draw 1 anyway. So in hindsight, I definitely think Nectar of the Gods should not have been played there, as I really didn't. I don't think I needed to see the cards with where the board was at, what my opponent's hand was at, as he does have an amp up. Could just save the spirits for something else. So here my opponent draws an Ambrosia to start recycling spirits so he can continue to do stuff. Definitely helps him recover from last turn losing so many spirits to my shield. So replays the Spark Hit as expected. I believe the final card is the Amp Up in hand. So here I just shield it again, get rid of some more spirits. He wasted another 2 spirits since he used Zeus, and just really kind of hammering in that I have control of the board right now. And I imagine with that Spark Hit on here, without the Zeus, it seems like Zeus was the main way he was going to get over the Sorlet, and without that, it wasn't going to do too much. So here, I'm just going to recycle the 3 Leviathan. I did have another Leviathan in there, so I just used the one from the enchant. That way, I can just special enchant the Tadpuff, go straight up into Globby here, as I figured Globby here, just to kind of start shifting into that beatdown style, and I can start enchanting spirits. And I believe this setup just really forces the last few of my opponent's spirit deck. I forget how many is in there, but if he has a counter rune, so be it. I just kind of wanted to see those few extra cards anyway to really just try to close out the game here. Oh, here's my reasoning why. Because I knew even if he did have a counter rune at this point, it would have been Shield or Gorgon. He would have had to expend 2 spirits regardless, and at that point, I'm forcing 2 spirits out of his spirit deck anyway. So I thought it was a worthwhile trade and just to draw a card. And even though it runs me out of my spirit deck, I figured that was just a good way to try to close out the game here. Is it a good play in hindsight? I don't know, but I'm ahead on the board so much that I definitely think it was worth running out of the resources. Also, I top decked Ambrosia. That's kind of nice because I can start plussing even more. To be fair though, looking at my hand, I really didn't have too many other plays, and definitely Tadpuff into Globby is a great way to go wide on the board and still have some way to deal with it. So I think it was a bit of a risky play, but I really it's kind of without more playtesting, I don't know if it was the right or wrong play there per se. I could definitely see it going wrong either way. But hey, I was able to use the spirit from Demeter because I don't think I need the attack to be able um, to use that Ambrosia, which is part of the other reason why I was okay using up all my spirits on the Globby last turn. And I was able to just normal enchant to Tadpuff. I don't think I need to ascend. I can just utilize Globby's ability. I've got plenty of powerful attackers on my side of the field. While based on the spirits I refreshed, I did not have a way to attack over stuff, but considering he's only really playing 1 Spirit Lestrals with 5 attacks, I wasn't too worried. But yep, he ended up drawing Nectar of the Gods. Couldn't really do too much from there with the uh, a depleted spirit deck there. So I ended up taking the match. Again, was his first game, so can't be too critical of his plays as he was still learning it. And it sounded like my opponent really enjoyed the game there and learned a lot. And honestly, I had a similar situation in one of my first games where I was using the Majesty start prototype deck, and I just said to my opponent, "Sure, use your custom deck here," and it definitely made me start thinking about how I can build it more competitively. But anywho, that is it for this match. I will be uploading another match later this week against Dragian again. And I actually have not only a match, but an extra game on there. So look forward to that.